Hello, dear members of the Drama of Life family. Today we will bring you an emotional love story. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any meaningful stories. In a small town called Willow Creek, deep in the heart of Oklahoma, life moves like a nursery rhyme, slow, peaceful, but also filled with silent sighs. On the bumpy dirt roads between the cornfields stretching as far as the eye can see, one can often see the figure of a young girl, her brown hair tied back, an old worn-out shirt and faded jeans. Sarah Miller, 25, a waitress at the hometown diner on the corner of the town's main street. Sarah is not a talkative girl, but her eyes, as blue as an autumn lake, are filled with endurance. Every morning she wakes up at 4:30 a.m. to cook breakfast for her parents, Jack and Linda, both of whom are seriously ill and completely dependent on her. Jack, once a strong farmer who could carry a sack of corn twice his own weight, is now a skinny man with shaky limbs due to Parkinson's disease. Linda suffers from complications of diabetes. Her legs are swollen and weak, and she can't stand for long. The wooden house where they live used to be a cozy farm, but since the harvest failed and the bank debt piled up, the family was forced to sell their land and live on the meager salary from the restaurant. Every time she gave her father breakfast, Sarah would smile brightly. "Dad, eat more. I made your favorite dish." But when she turned away, she would often clench her fists, hiding the pain in her eyes. At the restaurant, Sarah was always busy. She worked tirelessly, clearing tables, taking out the trash, and even helping the kitchen wash dishes when there was a shortage of people. The owner, Mrs. Doris, was a kind-hearted middle-aged woman who loved Sarah like a daughter. She had told her many times, "Sarah, you should have a better life than this, not having to work day and night for burdens that are not your fault." But Sarah just smiled. "I have my parents. As long as they need me, I'm not going anywhere." But sometimes, standing by the diner window, looking out at the deserted fields and smelling the dry, sun-baked earth, Sarah felt her heart tighten. She had dreamed of becoming an elementary school teacher and had a full scholarship to the University of Tulsa. But that dream had been packed away, locked away in a box of faith since her father fell ill. She dropped out of school, returned home, and never left town again. One sultry afternoon, as Sarah was wiping the table, Mrs. Doris walked up, her eyes filled with both hesitation and hope. "Sarah, there's something I want to tell you. A friend of mine in California, a housekeeper for a wealthy family in Los Angeles, told me they're looking for a live-in babysitter. The pay is great. I think maybe this could be your chance to change your life." Sarah looked up, blinking. "Babysitting? But I've never done that before. Besides, I have parents here." "I understand." Doris put her hand on her shoulder, her voice softening. "But you're young, smart, and hardworking. They don't need a degree, just someone who cares. And you can send money back every month. Maybe a few years will be enough to buy the farm back." Sarah sat silently, her heart pounding. She looked out the window at the setting sun shining on the barren fields. The thought of returning to that land, of seeing her father harvesting corn again, brought tears to her eyes. But away from her parents, out into the unknown world. Could she? That night she did not sleep. She sat by her father's bed, looking at his silver hair, listening to his weak, steady breathing. Linda, lying on the other side, coughed softly in her sleep. Sarah clenched her hands. She knew she could not live in fear forever. Someone had to do something, and it had to be her. The next morning she walked into the restaurant, her eyes determined. "Miss Doris, I'll go." 3 weeks later, Sarah arrived in Los Angeles, her first time outside Oklahoma. The difference was startling. The air smelled of gasoline and expensive perfume. The clean paved roads, bustling traffic, and skyscrapers were a stark contrast to her small town. A chauffeur picked her up in a sleek black SUV and drove her to the Hartman's Beverly Hills mansion, where a 10-foot-high white wall hid a world of luxury behind it. The gates opened automatically, and before Sarah was a massive Mediterranean-style villa with a turquoise swimming pool, perfectly manicured gardens, and marble steps leading up to the front door. "Miss Sarah Miller?" a slim, uniformed woman said as she stepped out of the car. "I am Miss Jenkins, the family housekeeper. Please come in." Sarah followed, her heart pounding. She didn't know what to say or do. But then, as they walked through the grand foyer with its high ceiling and sparkling crystal chandeliers, Miss Jenkins suddenly turned and whispered, "There is a small change. They no longer need a babysitter. Rather, they need someone to keep an eye on young Master Liam, the family's only son." Sarah was stunned. Keep? Keep an eye? The young master is a bit too free. Mrs. Elena Hartman, his mother, wanted someone trustworthy, calm, who could be a good influence on him. And you were chosen. Sarah's heart sank. She had never thought of having to watch over a grown man, especially a rich kid. But Miss Jenkins's serious gaze made it impossible for her to refuse. She just nodded slightly. "I understand. I will try." Sarah was placed in a guest room on the second floor of the mansion, bigger than her living room in Oklahoma. High ceilings, velvet curtains, a king-size bed with crisp white sheets. Everything smelled of expensive perfume. But Sarah was uncomfortable. She felt out of place. The paintings on the walls, the cold stone floor underfoot, the sound of the automatic garden hose. It was as foreign as if she were on another planet. That afternoon, Sarah was taken to meet the person she would be keeping an eye on. 24-year-old Liam Hartman, the only son of Mrs. Elena Hartman, a powerful businesswoman in the real estate industry who owns dozens of office buildings in Los Angeles. Liam was sitting on the expensive leather sofa in the middle of the living room, one hand holding the TV remote, the other draped over the back of the sofa. He was wearing a white Calvin Klein t-shirt and sweatpants. His hair was messy, and his eyes were emotionless. His eyes glanced at Sarah for a split second, then back to the screen as if she were air. "This is Miss Miller, the new hire," said Miss Jenkins. Liam didn't answer. He turned up the volume on the TV, which was playing some lame comedy show. Sarah stood still, her back straight, trying to be polite. "Hello, Liam. I'm Sarah." Liam smirked without looking at her. "Good. A new nanny. Should I be happy?" "Not a nanny. I'm just here to help out when needed." Sarah tried to keep her voice light. Liam turned, looking straight at her for the first time. His gray-brown eyes were cold, but behind them was something bored, stubborn, and maybe hurt. "So what are you going to do if I don't need help? Are you going to sit and watch me go to the bathroom? Or keep track of how many cookies I eat?" Sarah blushed but remained unyielding. "I don't mean to intrude on your privacy, but if your mother hired me, I think I should do my job." He chuckled. "Do you know how many people I've made quit in 1 week? I don't know. And honestly, I don't really care." Liam raised an eyebrow. Perhaps for the first time in months, someone had dared to respond to him without fear. That night, Sarah ate dinner alone in the kitchen with the staff. Liam didn't come down. He ordered takeout. 3 pizzas, 2 sodas, a box of cookies, and left them all over the table. He was a good kid, Ms. Jenkins sighed. But since his dad died 3 years ago, Liam has gone downhill. Sarah was silent, remembering his empty eyes. She knew what it was like to lose. She knew what it felt like to watch the person you loved most fall apart and not be able to do anything about it. But understanding did not mean forgiving. The next 3 days were pure hell. Liam did everything he could to tease Sarah. In the morning, he would play loud rock music while she was cleaning the study. At noon, he would deliberately take everything out of the kitchen and leave, leaving a mess behind. One day, he would casually walk past her room in the middle of the night and call out, "Nanny, I had a nightmare. Aren't you going to sing me a lullaby?" Sarah gritted her teeth and endured. She wasn't staying for the money. She was staying for her family, for the land she was saving. One morning, she was arranging flowers in the garden when she heard a loud bang in the garage. She ran back to see Liam slamming the steering wheel of his Lamborghini, his face red with anger. Glass was broken on the floor. The garage door was wide open. "Liam!" Sarah called. "Are you okay?" He turned back, his eyes blazing with anger, but also wet. "Get out!" he roared. Sarah stood still. "I said get out!" She stepped forward. "You can yell at me all day, but I'm still here, because I think you're hurt, not angry." Liam gripped the steering wheel tightly, his shoulders shaking slightly. "You don't need anyone's pity. You don't need anyone to keep an eye on you. If you want to destroy yourself, fine. But don't drag others into it, especially those who have nothing but kindness in their hearts. Liam said nothing. She turned away, leaving him sitting in the dark corner of the garage, head bowed in his hands. A week later, their relationship was still going nowhere. Liam avoided her. She worked quietly. But then, one rainy morning, as Sarah was mopping the wet stone steps, she slipped. She fell forward, and a pair of arms caught her. It's Liam. She lay on his lap, her face inches from his. Warm breath and the scent of peppermint soap drifted past. Sarah tried to stand but slid again. And this time, her lips brushed his. Just a moment. Both were startled. Sarah jumped up, her face red, her mouth stammering. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Liam looked at her, his eyes no longer mocking. Instead, there was surprise and something very real. It's okay, he said softly, then turned away. She stood there, her heart pounding like a drum. For the first time, she realized something was changing. Sarah couldn't sleep that night. The large bed seemed to be cramped by the thoughts swirling in her head. She rolled over and over, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling, her heart still echoing the erratic beat of that morning. The moment her lips brushed Liam's, even if it was just for a moment, was like a light scratch on the hard shell she had built up for so long. She repeated the question in her head. Do I really have feelings for him? A rich young master, once arrogant and annoying, someone she swore she would never be able to like? Number it couldn't be. She came here to make money, to help her parents get their land back, not to fall in love. But she couldn't deny one thing. The way Liam looked at her at that moment wasn't like the eyes of a rich, lazy guy. It was the eyes of someone who had lost something in the past and was trying to find it again, unconsciously. The next morning, Sarah woke up early as usual. She made coffee, prepared breakfast, cleaned the main hall. She tried to act normal, but when she entered the kitchen, she stopped. Liam was standing there, wearing a gray plaid shirt and simple jeans, his hands fumbling with a pancake on the pan. Sarah blinked. Am I dreaming? Liam turned back, shrugging. I got up early, and it was my first attempt at cooking. What are you doing? She asked, half believing. Pancakes, the kind with bananas. My mom used to make them for me when I was a kid. Sarah looked at the table. There was cake flour strewn about, banana peels lying around, and a plate of the first cake was charred black. She laughed, the first real laugh since she got here. Liam laughed too. Don't expect much, but you can try the second one if you're up for it. Sarah walked over, picked up the plate, and took a bite. It's actually edible, if I close my eyes. Wow, I'm so touched. Sarah sat down on the chair, watching him carefully turn the pancakes. The morning sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating Liam's messy hair and focused eyes. He no longer looked like an arrogant young master. He looked like a young man learning to be a decent person. Why are you doing this? Sarah asked softly. Liam paused for a moment, then said, Maybe. I want to see if I can do something that no one thinks I can do. Is it cooking? Live differently. Sarah said nothing, but something very small began to grow in her heart. A pleasant, warm feeling, like the morning sun on the fields of her homeland. In the following days, things began to change dramatically. Liam got up early with her. He helped her water the plants, wiped down the tables, even learned how to use the vacuum cleaner, though he still complained about the noise. He stopped playing loud music or leaving things lying around. And the strangest thing, he started asking Sarah about her. One afternoon, they were sitting in the garden after pruning roses. Liam asked, Have you always lived in Oklahoma? Sarah nodded. Born, raised, and never thought of leaving. But my dad had a stroke last year, and my mom has arthritis. The farm was empty, so we had to sell. I moved here to send money back home. That's why I took this job. So I put up with you. Sarah laughed, half joking. Liam looked down, a little embarrassed. I know I was bad. I'm probably not much better. But I'm trying. Sarah looked up at him. Those gray-brown eyes were no longer cold. They were sincere, fragile, like the evening sun. Even though her heart was starting to waver, Sarah kept her distance. She didn't forget why she was here. She didn't forget the family waiting for her. She didn't forget the distance between them, not just in terms of circumstances, but also in terms of the future. But Liam increasingly broke down those barriers. By not forcing, by not rushing. He just stayed there, present, quietly changing, quietly caring. One day, Sarah had a slight cold. She had a fever and didn't get out of bed. Liam, without anyone telling him, quietly made chicken soup and brought it up to her room. He sat by the bed, didn't say anything, just placed a glass of warm water next to her and read a small book. Sarah opened her eyes, her voice hoarse. "What are you doing?" "Pretend to take care of others," he smiled. "Not bad," she said softly. At that moment, she wanted to believe that people can change for someone. One weekend evening, Liam asked her to take a walk around the villa. The two walked side by side under the pale yellow light shining through the trees, saying nothing for a long while. No words needed. As they stopped on the small wooden bridge over the fish pond, Liam turned to her. "Sarah." "Yes." "I think I like you." She stood still, her heart stopping for a beat. "It's not because you're different. It's not because you're beautiful or kind. It's because when I'm around you, I don't want to be who I used to be." Sarah turned away, trying to hide her confusion. "You shouldn't have said that." "Why not?" "Because I don't belong to this world. I'm just a country diner girl. You're Liam Hartman. We're not compatible." "Who do you think I am, Sarah? Someone who never takes me seriously?" "You don't need to be serious. You can like anyone, anytime. But I can't bet my heart on someone I'm not sure about." Liam was silent, his lips pressed together. Sarah took a step back. "I'm sorry. I need time." She turned away, not looking back, but tears were streaming down her cheeks. The next day, Sarah left a small note in Liam's room. "Thank you for changing, but I have to go back to the reason I came here. Forget me." Then she left the mansion, leaving Los Angeles. The long bus ride through the night, back to the small town where the countryside and the old diner were waiting for her. She didn't know if Liam was sad, if he regretted it, but she knew she couldn't stay and lose herself. Her heart was broken, but her conscience was clear. The day Sarah left, the Hartman mansion seemed to lose its color. Liam sat for hours in the leather chair in the library, holding the note Sarah had left him. Her slanted handwriting cut into his heart like a knife. "Forget me." She had written it as if their relationship was just a brief stopover, but he couldn't forget. He walked around the house looking at the corners where she had been, the garden chair where she used to read, the pot of mint tea she liked, the scarf she had left on the second-floor balcony. "Is that girl gone?" his mother, Mrs. Elena Hartman, asked when she saw her son's bewildered appearance. Liam didn't answer. He just nodded. Elena looked at him, her eyes doubtful. "Fine. A maid should not cross the line." Liam turned to his mother, not silent for the first time in years. "She's not a servant. She's my love." She stopped. "Liam." "I'm not kidding, Mom. Sarah changed me. She made me want to be better. Don't you see?" Elena clenched her fists. "And for that, you're going to give up everything? Give up your position at the company? Give up the future your father expected of you?" "No, Mom, I'm not giving up on anything. But if I don't go find her, I'll lose myself." The next morning, Liam packed his luggage into the trunk of his old Jeep, the one that had been sitting in the garage for lacking style. He donned faded jeans, a simple shirt, and dusty boots, and began the nearly 1,400-mile journey from Los Angeles to Oklahoma. The journey was as long as the things he had never faced in his life: loneliness, responsibility, and love. In the car, he listened to Sarah's playlist, soft, sweet, soulful country songs. There were times when he had to stop by the side of the road because he missed her so much. "I never knew love was like this," remembering a smile, a pose, a glance. The first night, he slept in the car at a deserted rest stop near the New Mexico border. Cold air seeped through the windows. He huddled close to Sarah's jacket, which he'd found in her bedroom door, the only thing that still smelled of her lavender. 2 days later, he arrived in a small town in Oklahoma, where the land and sky were quiet and time seemed to slow down. He went to the diner where Sarah used to work, The owner, a middle-aged woman with silver hair, was stunned to see him. "You are Mr. Hartman?" Liam nodded, smiling slightly. "I'm Liam. I'm here to find Sarah." She looked at him with suspicion. "After all, you still dare to come back here?" "I came to prove that I was serious. Is Sarah here?" She stared at him, then nodded toward the back door. "Go to the kitchen. She's cleaning the vegetables." Liam walked slowly through the wooden door. The smell of fried onions and bacon wafted in. A girl with brown hair tied in a red scarf was busy peeling potatoes. He stood still for a long time, not daring to breathe heavily. "Sarah!" he called, his voice hoarse. She turned back. Her eyes widened in surprise, then her gaze hardened. "What are you doing here?" "To talk. What else is there to say between us?" Sarah turned away and continued peeling the potatoes she was in the middle of peeling, but her hands were shaking slightly. "You make me feel at home," Liam said slowly, sincerely. "For the first time in my life, I know what it feels like to want to be better for someone." Sarah smiled faintly. "You stay here for a few days and then go home. Life in this town is not for you." "Then let me try to prove it." "How? Roll up your sleeves and cook like me?" "Yeah, if need be, I'll clean the toilet too." Sarah looked at him, not as a dashing city man, but as a stubborn, sincere, and foolish boy in love. "You don't understand," she whispered. "You don't know how hard life is." "Then I teach you." From that day on, Liam stayed. He moved into a small rented room opposite the restaurant. No air conditioning, no hot water, just a creaky old bed. In the morning, he got up at 5 a.m. to help wash dishes and mop the floor. At noon, he carried food. In the afternoon, he helped the neighbors carry rice, cut grass, and clean up trash. Sarah didn't talk to him much, but every time she walked out to the kitchen and saw Liam sweating, still smiling at the old lady next door, her heart ached. One rainy evening, a local family's truck got stuck in the mud in the middle of a field. Liam didn't think twice. He rushed out with the other men pushing the truck, wading through the mud, soaked from head to toe. Sarah looked out from the porch. Her heart clenched. He was changing, not to prove anything, but because he wanted to understand her life. A week later, her father, George, had a backache and could not stand up. Liam did not ask any questions, just rode his motorbike to her house, carried him onto the motorbike, and took him to the medical station, then waited there for 3 hours, bought porridge and medicine for him to take home. Mr. George looked at Liam in surprise. "Are you the young master Sarah mentioned?" Liam scratched his head. "I'm the one trying to make things right." He chuckled. "Then keep trying, young man. My Sarah is stubborn." Gradually, the villagers' suspicious looks softened. Liam began to fit in. He learned to harvest rice, helped babysit, and even picked up the guitar so he could play some country tunes at the upcoming town festival. Sarah was softening, but not admitting it yet. She kept her distance, still turning down invitations to go for walks or to the movies. Liam was not discouraged. He waited as one waits for a late-blooming flower, with hope and faith. Autumn in Oklahoma comes like a quiet love song, gentle, nostalgic, and sparkling with a soft golden light pouring honey down on every roof. The Fall Fair is the town's biggest event of the year. People come from farms near and far, children chattering around ice cream carts, housewives showing off their baking skills, and husbands competing in ring toss and target shooting. Sarah never missed the fair, but this year things were a little different, because there was one person who had been silently watching her through the crowd. Liam. He wore a plaid shirt, jeans, and a cowboy hat, looking nothing like a city boy. It had been more than a month since he had arrived in town. During that time, Sarah had seen him change little by little. No big deal, no fanfare, just little actions, picking up trash along the side of the road, learning to make pumpkin pie, playing with the neighborhood kids, helping her father replace rusty roofing. The townspeople no longer called him Mr. Hartman. They called him Young Liam. That evening, Sarah wore the pale floral dress her mother had left her. Simple, modest, but more beautiful than any dress she had worn at the Hartman mansion. She went with her friend, intending to just walk around and then go home. But when the string lights on the main stage came on and country music started playing, she stopped. On stage, Liam is playing the guitar. His fingers lightly glided over the strings, his voice hoarse as light as the wind in the fields. I ain't got much, but I've got this heart. It beats louder whenever you're around. Everyone was silent, listening. All eyes were on the young man, who was singing with all his sincerity. When the song ended, he looked straight into the crowd and saw her. He stepped off the stage, saying nothing, just reaching out to her. Slow dance. You don't have to be in love to slow dance, he said, his voice a little playful, but his eyes were so sincere that it made her heart skip a beat. Sarah hesitated. Then she put her hand in his. Amidst the sparkling lights, they quietly entered a slow dance. No one led, no one followed, just two hearts beating to the music. You know, Liam whispered as he pulled her close, I used to think love was a luxury, but you made me want to believe for once. Believe that someone would love me not because of the Hartman name, but because of who I am. Sarah bit her lip, hiding the emotions welling up in her eyes. And you are that person, he said softly, because you make me want to be a better person every day. She looked up at him, his clear brown eyes no longer concealed. She saw his hard days, the times he practiced manual labor, the cold nights in the old rented room, the silent sacrifices just to be able to walk with her in this fair one day. Liam, she whispered, I'm afraid if I love you, I'll lose everything. No, he shook his head, his hand tightening on hers. You will have it all, because I don't bring you a mansion or money. I only have this heart, and it belongs to you forever. She didn't answer, but her slight nod, her eyes sparkling in the dark, was all he needed. After the fair, they began to appear together more often. No one was surprised. The whole town knew their love did not grow from roses or wine, but from mud, tears, and simple things. Sarah's father started smiling every time Liam came over. Her friends now considered him part of the town. And then one day, Liam took her hand and said, Come back to Los Angeles with me. Sarah was startled. Is it the maid? He shook his head, taking both her hands. As lover. I don't belong there, Liam. I don't belong anywhere. Without you. What about your mother? She asked, her eyes filled with doubt. She will have to learn to accept, just like I learned to be yours. She was silent for a long time, then she nodded. When they returned to the Hartman mansion, Elena was no longer the cold woman she had been. Liam told his mother everything, from the cross-state journey to every little change he'd gone through. I don't need you to accept me right away, he said, but you need to know, she's the one I chose. Sarah said nothing. She just stood there calm, her eyes full of strength. Mrs. Elena looked at her for a long time, then nodded. Welcome home, Sarah. Love is not a miracle. It is a long journey of sacrifice, change, and trust. And then one afternoon, as the ocean breeze blew gently across the sands of Santa Barbara, Liam knelt down and pulled out a simple ring. No gems, no flash. I can't promise to give you everything, but I promise to go with you to the end of the road. Gardening if needed, washing dishes if I have to, as long as you smile at me every morning. Sarah laughed with tears in her eyes. I agree. Instead of having the wedding at the lavish Hartman mansion or a Mexican beach resort as Liam's mother had suggested, Sarah simply smiled and said, I want to go home. Liam wasn't surprised. He nodded as if he had expected it, because he knew her heart belonged not to the glittering city, but to the red dirt roads that led to the fields, where the wind carried the smell of hay and the chirping of crickets. One early summer morning, her father's old pickup truck was once again traveling the familiar road, this time carrying two people about to start a new journey, as husband and wife. The town was festive. There were no invitations, no designers coming to measure for wedding dresses. Just a wooden sign in front of the restaurant. Sarah and Liam's wedding, in the field behind the house at 5 p.m. Everyone invited. People brought their own cakes, lemonade, and wildflowers from their backyards. Neighborhood boys set up tents out of rope and canvas, and the high school country band volunteered to play the entire show. Sarah wore the white dress her mother had kept in a wooden chest. Not silk, not beaded, but stitched by the woman herself during her years of poverty. She held a bouquet of lavender, a flower that symbolizes resilience and hope. On her head was a crown made of ivy and wildflowers, simple, rustic, but breathtakingly beautiful. As I walked out of the small house, holding my father's hand tightly, everyone fell silent. And amidst the admiring whispers, Sarah's eyes stopped on only one person, Liam. He stood there under the canopy of dry corn stalks and yellow lights, wearing a white shirt, no tie, no vest. But he had never looked so radiant and mature. When their eyes met, all distances disappeared. The officiant was the old neighbor who had delivered Sarah years ago. He spoke in a slow, warm voice like a fairy tale. A man may travel 1,000 miles in search of gold and silver, but true love is often just a hand extended when he falls. He looked at Liam and asked, "Do you promise to love her, to weather the storms with her, and to always remember the reason you fell in love with her in the first place?" Liam looked at Sarah, his eyes red. "I promise, because she makes me want to be a good person, and I've never wanted to be that before." Then he turned to Sarah. "Do you promise to trust, to stand by, and to forgive, even when the world changes?" Sarah smiled, a tear falling. "I promise, because when he gave up his mansion to live in an old rented room just to be with me, I knew he was home." The applause echoed throughout the field. There were no fireworks that night, just twinkling string lights and the sound of guitars under the moonlight. Liam pulled Sarah onto the makeshift wooden dance floor. He took her hand, as gently as the first time at the fair. She leaned her head on his shoulder and whispered, "Now I believe the most beautiful dream is the dream of holding someone's hand through the most ordinary days." He smiled and whispered back, "And I only dream of one thing, to live forever in those ordinary days with you." After the wedding, they didn't go on a fancy honeymoon. They stayed in town for another week to help clean up, thank every single person, and especially to look after Sarah's parents. A month later, they returned to California, but not to the Hartman mansion. They rented a small house near the ocean, with a small garden and an old swing. Sarah runs a small bakery, selling cornbread and pumpkin pie that the whole town loved. Liam works at a charity center, where he teaches life skills to street kids. Their life is not glamorous, but every morning begins with laughter, and every night ends with a good night under a roof with yellow lights. Years later, when their eldest daughter, Ellie, asked her mother, "Where did you meet Dad?" Sarah smiled and patted her child's head. "I met your father at the mansion, but I fell in love with him in a country field where the smell of hay and country music played in the yellow light." Because true love doesn't need too many grand things. It just needs someone willing to walk with us through the simplest things.